everyone, today I wanted to take you through my current setup. I've been in a really good flow of making art and in particular working on paper pieces and in my sketchbooks, and I've made a few tweaks to the way that I've laid out my supplies and organised the space. So I thought I'd do a quick run through of how it looks at the moment. So I'm still working on a dining table. I've worked on a dining table for years and years now, and it's just cozy to me and comfortable, and I feel like I have a decent amount of space with this table to stretch out, which is nice. I'm able to have many of my supplies out where I can see them, and that is such a bonus to me because I do find that if I put things away in my cupboards, I forget about them. So as much as possible, I try to have the things that I want to use in front of me. And you can see that on the table here where I've even got some full sets of supplies, and these are new supplies that I have recently acquired, and so I really want to make sure that I use them, that I test them out. So I have these Prismacolor new pastels which I've just got. So these are brand new. I really love the colors of them. I've had some little tests with them that I've done so far, and so far they are looking promising because they are nice and firm pastels, which I do like. And then I have some new acrylic inks as well that I have there. And then in this corner of the table, I have various different palettes, depending on what kind of paint I'm using. So I use this enamel tray here when I am doing acrylic painting, and then I often use these porcelain palettes when I am doing watercolor painting. So it's nice to have the two options. I always have a couple of jars of water and a towel. Towel is really great for wiping off any excess paint so that you don't dirty up your water too much. I have a mug, always have a mug here with a half-drunk cup of tea. And what else do I have? In front of me, I have the substrates that I've been working on. I have been mixing it up a little bit and working in a sketchbook. This is a Fabriano sketchbook, and I think it's like a student grade type of paper. There's certainly a lot of pages in the sketchbook. It's a hot press paper, so it's really good for working with mixed media, so you can use paint on it, but it's also nice and smooth if you want to do pen work and line work and things like that. So I quite like that. It does get a little bit wobbly when you add a lot of water into it, so it's not 100% cotton or anything like that. But it's versatile. It's good enough for what I've been doing, and I'm enjoying the non-precious feel of it. And then as far as paper, I've been running with the idea of using less expensive materials while I'm experimenting, and using this Fabriano Studio watercolor. This is also hot press. It's 25% cotton, and it's a good middle range paper. But it doesn't compare, especially when using watercolor, it certainly doesn't compare to something like Arches, which is much more premium. And that's my preferred paper for watercolor pieces. So I cycle between them depending on what I'm doing. And it's nice to have those options. And what I am thinking about doing going forwards is actually using this trolley behind me, and I've cleared it out a little bit because I want to use that trolley for all my substrates. So I have sketchbooks in the top, and then I want to have different papers in the two trays so that I can really easily access whatever paper I want to work on. And this is one of the changes I've made to this space, is to bring over my trolleys and utilize them in my sketchbook area. I'm not sure what I'm going to do when I go back to working on canvases, but right now I'm really loving this setup and having everything on my table. And I just realized how ridiculous that sounded because they're trolleys. Of course I'll just move them when I move over to my canvases. And that's the brilliant thing about having things on wheels. You can just change up the setup easily. So yeah, don't mind me. So I have more trolleys over here, and I've loaded these ones up with acrylic paint because I use all sorts in my sketchbooks. I often start my paintings with a watercolor base or an ink base, and then I might come over the top with some acrylic paint. And one of the things that I've done is switched over to using tubs rather than tubes. I still have plenty of tubes, but I've got these tubs in the top, and I've put the colors I painted little circles of the colours of each tub so that you can see what colour it is. So I have all the tubs marked. So that's a bit of a game changer because so often I'm hunting around trying to find a colour. I've got all golden paints in this top layer. I use a variety of acrylic paint brands, but I always seem to come back to golden for the really buttery consistency of the paint in the heavy-bodied version. And then I also use golden fluid acrylics and some high flow and some medium. So there's a whole lot of different acrylic-based products in these trolleys. And then underneath I have some tube acrylic paints in different brands. And then I also have some tools and stencils and things too. Things that I don't use quite as much, but are still easy for me to access. And then on the left-hand side, where I sit, I have all my mark making supplies. So I have Posca pens, Micron pens, watercolor pencils, pastels, crayons, all the different kind of things that I like. A variety of brushes. So I have some watercolor brushes, mixed media brushes, all sorts of different brands. I like to mix it up with my brushes. So some of them are quite cheap, some of them are a bit more premium. All of them do different things for me. And then I have tools as well, like a ruler, pencil sharpener, eraser. I always have like a ball clip around the place so that I can clip my sketchbook whenever I want to hold the pages down if they're bouncing up. One thing I will say about this Fabriano sketchbook, it does really lie flat, which is one of the things that makes it a fun sketchbook to work in. And also, it's quite big. It's bigger than most of my sketchbooks. It looks like it's about A4 size, but maybe even a little bit bigger. And maybe that's another reason why I've been finding a lot of fun and freedom is there's a lot of space to experiment and play. So this is definitely a sketchbook dedicated to that. Every page is quite different. So that's the mark making supplies. What have I forgotten? I think I've forgotten the watercolor paints. So I have them behind me. So I have the acrylic paints over there, and then I have my watercolor paints here behind me. And what I often do is just come in here and pick a few colors that I want to work with and then bring them over to my table. I have these sheets that I've been making. Another thing that's working really well for me is that I've actually swatched out all my watercolors. Now I've done this in the past in various different sketchbooks, but all the colors are in different sketchbooks and different places. And this is actually the first time that I've swatched them all out in one place. And there's plenty of room now so that I can add some more. And this is super handy because when I'm thinking about a starting point for a painting or a color palette, I come and have a look at these sheets. And I don't just have my watercolors, I actually have other supplies as well that I've been swatching out. Some of them aren't that full yet, which to me seems like a good reason to perhaps get some more of that particular supply, but maybe that's just me. You can see here the Prismacolor pastels I was talking about. I swatched them out the other day. And I also have this fantastic new Kuretake watercolor set, which is a little bit more gouache-like compared to Daniel Smith watercolors. Daniel Smith watercolors will probably always be my favorite, but this is a very different kind of feel. And it's a lot of mixed colors rather than pure pigments. And when you swatch everything out like this, you can really see the difference. So you can see the difference in the kinds of colors that you get from the Kuretake paints to the Daniel Smith. And I just like to flick through these to get ideas around what colors I want to use and what particular mixed media supplies I might want to combine together. So I clip these with a ball clip and I hang it using this kind of thing, an S hook, I think it is. And then I just put that on the side of the trolley here. And so quite often when I'm starting my work, I start with colour and I just have a quick look at that and pick a few colours, and I might come behind me and grab a few things to work with. And then I have a few more supplies behind me that are lesser used supplies. Behind the supplies, I have bits of artwork that I've been working on, and I change these quite often. I put different things up here depending on what I'm focusing on or what's inspiring me at any given point in time. And I think that's pretty much it. I have some coloured pencils over there as well. I don't use coloured pencils a huge amount, but I do have some. And yeah, I really feel like I have everything that I could possibly want to work with in my sketchbooks within kind of arm's reach, and that is working super well for me. And I know not everyone has that opportunity, but if you can create a little area in your life where you can put your supplies out or even have them in a tray or something like that, but that they're there, it makes it so much easier to jump into the work. And I've been in a stage at the moment where all I want to do is jump into the work. It's actually really hard to do other life things and business things because this way of working is completely addictive to me. And also just the freedom I've been feeling in the sketchbooks too. So sketchbooks is another way of bringing in that flow or even using more affordable paper. So I hope this has given you some ideas, maybe some inspiration on how you can create a space that encourages you to make art and enjoy the process.